Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Bobby Valentine Sports Show. I am your host, Frank Rampin, and let's dive into another week of the MLB season. The dog days of the MLB season, the dog days of summer are here, really grinding through the last 2 months of the season. Pitching is at its worst at the moment, looking to get healthy for that last month of September and that playoff push. So let's dive right into it with our stat of the week, and this one might be one of our craziest stats of the week that I've ever seen. I heard this. I think the announcer for the Nationals said this yesterday during the game. Maybe it was the Angels, but I think it was the Nationals announcer. This was one of the wildest stats I've ever heard. So Anthony Rendon. Everyone knows Anthony Rendon. He was arguably a top 5 player in all of baseball, top 3 third baseman in all of baseball. 2019 with the Washington Nationals. They went to the World Series. They won the World Series. He had a crazy good postseason run. He hit like 320 that year. Like Rendon had a couple years where he was hitting 300, 310, 30 home. Like he was the guy. Right? So Anthony Rendon, since leaving the Nationals after that year in 2019, the Nationals have used 19 third basemen in that 5-year span, 5 years, 19 shortstops since the Nationals lost Anthony Rendon. And he went to the Los Angeles Angels. They've used 28 third basemen since they got him. So the Nationals lost one of their best players. They've used 19 third basemen since they lose him. And the team that gets him, they've used 28, almost 10 more. Ridiculous stat that is. Anthony Rendon has played about 20 games since he's been an Angel, and that has been one of the worst trades in the history of baseball. So Anthony Rendon, in a company that he doesn't really like to see him in, just spit all over my computer. That was good. But Anthony Rendon, ridiculous stat that is. I could not believe my eyes when I heard that, or could not believe my ears when I heard that. So, wild stat of the week we got for you here. Play of the week. This one comes from Wednesday. Series between the Tigers and the Mariners in Seattle. Cal Raleigh comes up to the dish. Look at the score here. I'm pausing this right here. 3-2. Tigers on top, bottom of the 8th inning, tying run in scoring position at second. 1-2 the count on Raleigh with 2 outs. So one pitch away from getting out of this bottom of the 8th inning for Foley and the Tigers. Let's see what happens. So the 1-2 pitch, hanging off speed, ripped high and deep to center field by Cal Raleigh, who's been so good. Parker Meadows to the wall, leaps, perfect timing, and brings back what would have been a go-ahead home run. Great play. Shoulder all the way over the wall for Parker Meadows. That ball was well over. Would have been a clutch go-ahead 2-run homer from Cal Raleigh. Instead, inning over, we're headed to the 9th, and the Tigers win. What a play from Parker Meadows. Unbelievable. Saves the game, and later they go on to win. So Cal Raleigh mentioned it a little bit there, the big dumper. Saw him on Sunday Night Baseball last night in Seattle. Hit 2 home runs against the Mets. He's been great as of late. On pace to lead his team in basically every single offensive category. Batting average, homers, RBIs, slugging, you name it. Cal Raleigh, one of 3 catchers on pace to do that in the history of the game. So from the play of the week to the game of the week, started in the Pacific Northwest for that play of the week. The Tigers making a great play, Parker Meadows. Over to the desert. This one's in Phoenix. Rematch of last year's NLCS series between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. 3-game set took place Friday through Sunday, and the Diamondbacks actually took this series. So this is back to game 1, Friday night. Pick things up in the bottom of the first inning, 0-0 ball game. Adrian Del Castillo, rookie playing his second career game, floats one into shallow left center field. Coming in, Marsh, out Trey Turner. That's going to drop in for an RBI single as Corbin Carroll comes in to score. Josh Bell moves up to third. So first hit of the day for Adrian Del Castillo. And look at this swim move from Josh Bell at third. Watching Katie Ledecky at the Olympics. What a swim move that was. Man, Josh Bell. Josh Bell's been so good since he came over to the Diamondbacks, by the way. He's been a godsend from them. Marlins gave him up for cash considerations, and he's been one of the best players on the D-backs since he's gotten there. So 1-0 Diamondbacks after the Adrian Del Castillo bloop single. We'll move ahead here to the bottom half of the 3rd inning. Jock Peterson turns on that inside fastball way out of here. Great inside pitch hitting from Jock Peterson. He's great at that. Yanks the hands in, able to get them inside the baseball. Crushed out of here. 2-0, Snakes on top. So this game honestly didn't have too much action. So jumping well ahead here. So Bryce Harper skies one high and deep in the air to left. Going back, Jake McCarthy, and he watches that one fly. So finally the Phillies got on the board. cut the deficit in half, and it is 2-1 Arizona. So Ryan Nelson finally coming out of the game after giving up only the one home run. Top of the 8th inning, 0-2 count, A.J. Puck. Johan Rojas lifts one over the head of Jake McCarthy. That's going to short up the wall. Getting the wave around third base is Nick Castellanos. Perdomo's throw to the plate just late. Castellanos slides in safely, and we have a tied-up ball game in the 8th inning. So clutch hitting from Johan Rojas to tie things up. We'll go to the bottom of the 9th inning, tied 2-2. So here comes Adrian Del Castillo. Adrian Del Castillo. This is his second career game. Some have that bloop single that scored the first run of the game for the Diamondbacks back in, I believe it was the second? I don't even know. But Del Castillo, second career ball game, comes up in the bottom of the 9th inning, 2-2. First pitch off of Jeff Hoffman, ripped to right field. That one is way out of here. First career home run is a walk-off. Second career game, and Adrian Del Castillo becomes the first player in Diamondbacks history whose first career home run was a walk-off. Second career game he played. What a start to a career from Adrian Del Castillo. Storybook second game. So they win that 3-2. Crazy game that was, and a wild milestone hit already in his first game of his career, or second game of his career. So now we go into the standings update, and man, we are getting dicey. Things are getting interesting as we are headed towards the last month and a half of the season. So the Orioles and the Yankees tied up atop the AL East, at 70 and 49. Anthony Santander just hit his 35th home run of the season on Sunday yesterday. That's tied for the most in a single season by a switch hitter in franchise history, tied with Ken Singleton, who did it back in 1979. And here are the all-time switch hitters to have 25 or more home runs in a 60-game span. Mickey Mantle did it twice. He did it in 1956 and in 61. Chipper Jones did it back in 1999. And now Anthony Santander just did it. So just the third switch hitter in the history of the game to have 25 or more home runs in a 60-game span. And the Orioles' offense has started to be good. But, still not that great of a stretch. The Orioles and the Yankees are having a weird kind of stretch of games where they're going to win a couple, lose a couple, but it's almost simultaneous. So nobody can really get an edge in this division, and it's just tied all the way. This is going to be a great race for the last month and a half. Jackson Holliday. The 20-year-old has been on an absolute tear since he's come back up to the big leagues. 3 straight games with a home run for Jackson Holliday. He became the youngest player in Major League Baseball history to have a home run in 3 straight games. First player ever in the history of the MLB at age 20 or younger to hit a home run in 3 straight games since Fernando Tatis. And the first Orioles player in franchise history with 5 homers in 10 games before turning 21. So the youngster has been unbelievable since coming back up. He's just been so good. And Colton Cowser, also another youngster, came up actually the same time as Jackson Holliday did his first time back in May, I believe it was. And Colton Cowser just hit the 11th leadoff homer of the season for the Orioles, one shy of the franchise record that was set in 1996. That was 12 homers. So just one more home run to tie that. I bet they're going to break it this year. The Orioles have been really good on offense, and the pitching's been a little bit of a shaky stop. But they got Zach Eflin at the deadline, and through 2 starts with the team, he's been unbelievable. He just threw 7 scoreless against his former team at the Trop against the Rays, but he's been great. Hopefully he can get some stability in that rotation. So the New York Yankees, like I mentioned, tied with the Orioles at 70 and 49. Luis Gil, their rookie pitcher, has allowed 1 run or fewer in 14 of his 22 starts this season. He had one 6-start stretch where he wasn't very good, and that's why he didn't make the All-Star game, because it was terrible timing. It was right before the All-Star game. But, he's been one of the best pitchers in the league pretty much all year. And Austin Wells, he has filled that major void the Yankees had in the DH spot. Or not the DH spot, the 4 spot. The spot behind Judge in the order. Because obviously it's whoever hits leadoff, because that's been up for grabs too. Soto, Judge. That's the only constant in the Yankees lineup. Soto's going to hit second. Judge is going to hit third. And, and Judge is getting intentionally walked at a crazy rate. You're going to need someone behind him who can protect him. That was not the case for the first 3-4 months of the season. The Yankees really had the worst 4 hitting in baseball. But now, ever since Austin Wells been put into the spot, he's batting well over 300 and a big spark for this Yankees team. Juan Soto just became the youngest player in MLB history to hit a home run against all 30 MLB teams. He's only 25 years old. He just hit 2 home runs yesterday against the Rangers to get to 30 on the season. And when they said that was a tie, he got a homer against all 30 teams, I was like, how? Like, that guy's so young. I'm 22, right? He's 25. He's 3 years older than me. He's homered against all 30 MLB teams. What are we talking about? So, Soto, youngest player ever to hit a homer against all 30. 2 to get to 30 against the Rangers yesterday on Sunday. He has 22 multi-home run games in his career. That's the second most ever before turning 26, only behind Mel Ott, who has 24. So Soto still has a chance to tie that up or take the lead. Still 25 years old. And Aaron Judge went back-to-back with Juan Soto in the 7th inning after Soto's second home run. And Aaron Judge is on pace for 55 home runs. Will be just the third player in AL history to have multiple seasons with 55 home runs. He would join Ken Griffey Jr. and Babe Ruth. So going to round out the bottom of this AL East division, the Red Sox still 6 games over 500 at 61-55, but they just got swept by the Astros in a horrible series. 2 of those games were just not close at all. Astros just murdered them. So looking to pick things up now as we are really getting to it in this days of August. The Rays, 1 game above 500, still hanging around. 5.5 games behind the Royals, just 1.5 behind the Red Sox, who are 3 behind the Royals. And the Blue Jays, 10 games under 500, but Vlad Jr., unbelievable streak he just ended yesterday actually against the A's. 22-game hitting streak ended, became the first player with a 500 batting average, 10 or more home runs in 20-game span since Chipper Jones back in 2006. So pretty good company there for Vlad. He's been arguably the hottest hitter in baseball. The Philadelphia Phillies sitting 20 games over 500 at 69-49. They go hold a nice 7.5 game lead in their division. Kyle Schwarber just hit his 11th leadoff homer of the season and 42nd of his career. 42nd of his career, that's 10th all time, and he's got the most in the majors this season. That's the same amount that the entire Orioles team has, and we were just talking about that. Schwarber had a 3-homer game against the Dodgers this week, who just became the 3rd player in MLB history to have multiple 3-home run games out of the leadoff spot. The Atlanta Braves, 61-56, have been falling off a cliff lately. They have a half-game lead over the Mets for that 3rd NL wildcard spot, but they've really, really been struggling. They just blew a massive lead yesterday on Sunday to the Rockies. They led 8-2 going into the bottom of the 8th inning. They gave up 7 runs in the bottom of the 8th and lose the game 9-8. Tough sledding it's been for the Braves. They got to make things happen. The Mets, only 4 games above 500, had that huge, about month-and-a-half stretch where they're good, but right now they're kind of falling apart. They just had a 24-inning scoreless streak that was snapped on Sunday Night Baseball last night. They're going to need to wake the offense up. Tuesday, starting a series at Citi Field against the boys, the Oakland A's. Sean Manaea joined Tom Seaver and Dwight Gooden as the only pitchers in Mets history to throw 7+ innings and 10 or more strikeouts and allowing no runs in consecutive starts. Pete Alonso crushed 2 bombs against the Rockies on Thursday. 8th player in the Statcast era to hit 2 home runs of at least 450 feet in a game. The first one was at 471 feet. The second one was 454. It was his 21st career multi-home run game, tied for the second most in Mets history with the captain, David Wright. And Pete Alonso, he has the most home runs in baseball since 2019. 2 home run lead ahead of Aaron Judge. Pete Alonso has 217. Judge has 215. Kyle Schwarber at 201. And then Matt Olson, 195. And then rounded out by Shohei Ohtani at 183. And speaking of that game on Thursday, right before the offense went to sleep, they had 4 extra base hits in a row to start the game. Started the game with 3 straight doubles and a 2-run homer by Pete. 4 straight extra base hits to start a game, broke a franchise record. So now the Washington Nationals sitting at 54-65. C.J. Abrams just hit a go-ahead home run this week against the San Francisco Giants in a game that they ended up winning on a pitch that was 4.42 feet off the ground. It was literally at his shoulders. The swing was insane. He went like this, and he crushed one, pimped it out to right center field. It's the 4th highest pitch ever hit from a home run since they started tracking that in 2015. Kyle Higashioka hit the highest one at 4.61 feet, but it was off a position player, so there's a catch on that one. And Jose Tena hit a walk-off double in his first game with the Nationals. Hopefully that brings a spark to them. But in his second game with the Nationals, he broke his hand. The Miami Marlins sitting at 44-75. Jesus Sanchez, one of the players they did not trade, who has promise on this Marlins team. He just hit the longest home run in the majors this season. 480 feet out to right center field at Lone Depot Park. I've never seen a ball get anywhere near that. As I went to school down in South Florida, I've been to a few games down there. But that ball was hammered. 480 feet, ridiculous. Derek Hill hit a home run. It was his first home run with the Marlins after getting claimed from San Francisco on August 3rd. And Hill just became the second player in Marlins history with at least 4 or more hits, 7 or more RBIs through their first 4 games with the team, joining Casey McGee back in 2014. So heading over to the Central, and Cleveland, the Guardians, 69-49, same record as the Phillies. They hold a 3.5 game lead over this division, but they just had a very, very shaky stretch. They lost 7 games in a row before they salvaged a series split against Minnesota, winning the last 2 games of the series. But they really lost a lot of ground in this division. This was Cleveland was playing the best baseball in the league, really, for, a couple weeks, because the Dodgers were struggling, the Phillies were struggling, the Orioles and the Yankees couldn't really find their footing. So Cleveland moved themselves up to the best record in baseball. But they lose 7 straight. They lose 2 in a row, a doubleheader to Minnesota. And that division lead shrunk all the way down to 2.5. But Saturday and Sunday, Cleveland ends up winning, bumping that up to 4.5. A little bit more comfortable, but still going to be an interesting race. And there's only been 3 third basemen in the history of baseball to have 3 or more seasons with 30 or more home runs and 20 or more steals. Howard Johnson did it in 87, 89, and 91. Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, did it in 04, 05, and 07. And now Jose Ramirez, the Cleveland legend, 2018, 21, and 24. Unbelievable this guy is. He needs to be an MVP candidate every year. It's actually insane. I really hope he finishes top 3 this year in the AL. I hope it's Judge, Bobby Witt, Jose Ramirez. And here are players who have scored a run in 8 consecutive games, 3 times in a single season in Cleveland franchise history. Shoeless Joe Jackson did it in 2011 really. Shoeless Joe, no, 1911, you know him, part of the Black Sox scandal. Earl Averill did it in 1936, and now Jose Ramirez. Just absolute legend, one of the best players in franchise history. And I just mentioned the Minnesota Twins at 65-52, only 3.5 games back in the division. They're 15 games over 500 for the first time since September of 2019, when they were 41 games over. And let's not forget, that was the Bomba Squad from 2019 when baseballs were juiced. Everyone was hitting crazy amount of home runs. But the Bomba Squad, nonetheless, they hit 307 home runs in 2019 as a team, tied for the most by any team ever. And I just mentioned this when I talked about Cleveland. The Twins just made up 5 games over the Guardians in a 7-day span that was capped by that doubleheader sweep on Friday. But they did lose Saturday and Sunday. They're 3.5 games back. They hold that second AL wildcard spot. The Royals, they hold the third AL wildcard spot. They just took the I-70 series over the Cardinals. Bobby Witt has cooled down maybe a little, if you can say that, because, he was getting 3 hits every day for the month of July. So I guess you can say that. The Tigers, Tariq Skubal, probably going to be the Cy Young favorite as we get into it, but they're still 9 games under 500. The White Sox tied the American League lead for consecutive losses in a game. Tied the American League record for consecutive losses with 21 consecutive losses. The streak was finally snapped at 21 after they picked up a win at the Coliseum against my A's. Of course, that had to happen that way. 21 losses in a row ties the AL record. They led in only 14% of innings during this streak, and they scored 2.3 runs per game, which was the lowest in baseball. Their first win after the All-Star break comes on August 6th, when their last win was on July 10th. Think about that. They almost went an entire calendar month without picking up a win. That's got to be a terrible feeling, but of course the A's botch it. Garrett Crochet, who at one point was looking like the AL Cy Young frontrunner, just gave up his first ever home run to a lefty, and it was a Cody Bellinger 2-run bomb. So over to the National League Central, the Milwaukee Brewers, 67-50 with a 7.5 game lead over the Cardinals. Jackson Chourio, the 20-year-old, 20 years and 150 days to be exact, just became the youngest player in Milwaukee history to have a multi-home run game since Hammer and Hank Aaron did it at 21 years old and 155 days. So pretty elite company there for the youngster Jackson Chourio. As the St. Louis Cardinals just had a tough week only 2 games over 500 now, 60-58. Game and a half behind the Braves for that third and a wild card spot, but Ryan Helsley been an unbelievable piece at the back end of this rotation, or back end of this bullpen for St. Louis. Him and Emmanuel Clase have had dominant seasons. Helsley leads the league with 36 saves, That's only one ahead of Clase. And there's only one other closer that has more than 24. That's Kyle Finnegan in the National League, And the Chicago Cubs making a little bit of moves in this division. They go from last week all the way up to third this week. 3 games back of that last NL wildcard spot. They got a chance. And what a day it was on Saturday for the Swanson family. So Dansby Swanson, the shortstop for the Cubs, picked up career hit number 1,000 at Wrigley Field. And hours before that, his wife, Mallory, scored the only goal in a U.S. 1-0 win over Brazil in the gold medal soccer match. So Mallory Swanson nails a goal, the decisive goal in the gold medal match to get USA the win and the victory in the soccer tournament. Dansby records hit number 1,000, both in the same day, probably 5 hours apart from each other. So what a day that was for the Swanson family. Probably they celebrated that one once Mallory gets back home from Paris. And the offense has been a lot better for the Cubs since the start of July. Isaac Paredes maybe gave himself a little spark, but been better. And I just mentioned it before, Cody Bellinger hit the first home run hit by a lefty off of Garrett Crochet. And the Reds slowly, ever so slowly trending in the positive direction. My team I picked to win this division. Still 4 games under 500. 4.5 games back of that last wild card spot. But another week of Elly De La Cruz stats. So, in the history of baseball, here are the players got to 20 home runs and 20 steals in a season in the fastest amount of games, fewest amount of games. In 1986, Eric Davis did it in only 99 games. He's the only one to do it in less than 100. In 1990 and 85, Rickey Henderson did it in 100 games, just 1 game longer. And then in 2023, last year, Acuna took 102 games. And now this season, Elly De La Cruz just did it in 110. And it's just the third player in Reds history to have 20 or more home runs and 50 or more steals in a single season. Joe Morgan did that 3 times. Eric Davis did it twice. And now Elly De La Cruz has done it in 2024. And he just went off earlier this week against Miami. I believe that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. On Monday, he hit 2 homers, 2 doubles. And then in Game 2, he hit 4 more hits. He became the third Reds player since 1901 to have 5 extra base hits in a 2-game span. Barry Larkin did it in 98, and Jim Greengrass did it in 1954. He became the first Reds player to have 4 hits in back-to-back games since Dimitri Young in 2001. This guy's unbelievable. Hunter Green has allowed 1 run or less in 6 straight starts. Johnny Vandermeer was the first Reds starter to start 6 straight games and allow 1 run or fewer. And Vandermeer threw 2 consecutive no-hitters during that 6-game stretch. He was a 1940 World Series champion and a 4-time All-Star. And Thursday, so it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that series. They scored 7 runs in the top of the 10th inning to beat the Marlins. 7 runs in an extra inning were the first and most since 1985. And 6 losses in a row. The Pittsburgh Pirates fall 5 games under 500, 56-61, all the way down to 5 games back of that last wild card spot. And man, it's been tough. Just had a terrible series sweep against the Padres and then one against the Dodgers. So, not very good for the Pirates. They need to figure things out. Need to get it going now. All-time RBI leaders in Pittsburgh Pirates history. Number 1, Willie Stargell, 1540. Roberto Clemente, 1305. Then Pie Traynor, 1277. Paul Wainer, 1183. Bill Mazeroski at 853. And then Andrew McCutchen at 802. And that's ahead of Ralph Kiner at 802. And Aroldis Chapman just threw the hardest pitch of the season. 105.1 miles per hour. 105.1. He kind of yanked it, though, so it was a ball. The next pitch, strikeout at 104.7. And Manny Machado, who was the batter, he only could just stare at him and laugh. And you know that thing that Chapman does when he throws his pitch and he kind of just stares at the batter and kind of stares off? Him and, what's his name? Yiner Cano for the Orioles. They both kind of have that little strut stare down thing after they strike out the last batter of an inning. But Manny was looking at him and he couldn't help but laugh. and it cracked up Chapman. He could not keep the straight face together. It was really funny to see. So to wrap things up with the West Division, starting in the American League, the Houston Astros are tied record-wise with the Mariners. Technically don't have the same record, as Houston is 62-55, and the Mariners are 63-56, but tied up basically with like the numbers, because you can use a microscope and split them up, but they're tied. Framber Valdez just lost a no-hitter with 2 outs in the 9th inning earlier this week. I believe that was Wednesday. So close to his second career no-hitter, but the first hit he gave up was a 2-run homer. First pitch he threw to Corey Seager with a runner on first and 2 outs in the 9th. 2-run home run. Corey Seager becomes the only player in recorded MLB history to break up a no-hitter with 2 outs in the 9th twice. So Corey Seager, just the no-hitter killer, this time with a bomb. And Yordan Alvarez hit his 150th career home run. He became the fastest Astros player to get to 150 career home runs. And Jose Altuve is now 4th in club history with 224 home runs. He's only behind Jeff Bagwell's 449, Lance Berkman's 326, and Craig Biggio's 291. The Seattle Mariners, mentioned tied with Seattle. Mitch Haniger now stands alone for the most walk-offs in Mariners history with 8. He had a walk-off 3-run double with the Mariners down by 2 runs to the Tigers in the bottom of the 8th. And since pitch tracking was invented in 1988, so since pitches were getting tracked in 1988, he became the first player in baseball history to deliver a walk-off hit in the following situation. Bottom 9, bases loaded, down by multiple runs, down to his last strike, and behind in the count. Mitch Haniger, the first player ever to do all this. And most home runs in first 4 career seasons by a catcher who have played at least 50% of the games at the catcher position. Mike Piazza has the most with 92. Rudy York, second with 88, one ahead of Johnny Bench's 87. And then in 4th place for the most home runs ever in first 4 career seasons by a catcher, Cal Raleigh with 85. Unbelievable. He's been so good over these past 2 years for the Mariners. The big dumper continues to crush baseballs. And I mentioned it earlier, 27 consecutive scoreless innings thrown by this Mariners pitching staff. 27 consecutive scoreless innings. That's the 5th longest scoreless streak in franchise history. And Luis Castillo, one of the fixtures in that rotation, 11th pitcher in the Dominican Republic history to reach 1,300 strikeouts. The Rangers, 55-63. Let me say that again. 55-63 for the Rangers. 10 games back for the 3rd wildcard spot and 7 games back for the division. If it's going to happen for the reigning World Series champions, it's going to have to happen right now. They're going to have a great last month and a half. They're going to have some help, too, from the Mariners and the Astros, because I don't know if they can even get a wildcard spot at this point. I don't think they can. The only way they can get to the playoffs is if they beat both the Mariners and the Astros, I think. Josh Smith hit a huge 2-run walk-off home run to beat the Astros in Game 1 of the series. It was his first walk-off home run of his life, he said after the game. Never hit any walk-off hits in his life. First one ever, and it was the 3rd ever by a Ranger versus the Astros. So that was a huge win in Game 1, Rangers over the Astros, but they lost the next 2. So they needed that series really bad, but they were not able to get it. So that brings us to the Los Angeles Angels, 52-66. Zach Neto, the shortstop sensation, became the first Angels shortstop with a 6 RBI game since Freddie Paddock back in 1980. He had 2 home runs and 8 RBIs in a doubleheader versus the Yankees. Neto did. What a day that was in the Bronx for him. And this was the stat of the week, the Rendon stat. 19 third basemen used for the Nationals since Rendon left. 28 for the Angels. So I'd take that what you want. My A's, 50-69. They matched last year's win total already. 50 wins on August 10th. They picked up 43 games left. Already matched last year's win total. Let's go. They scored 6 runs in the first inning yesterday off of former A Chris Bassett. A little bit of a bittersweet moment there because I still like Chris Bassett. It was the highest scoring first inning for the A's this year. Over to the NL. Dodgers. So the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Guardians all sitting at 60-49. Interesting. Let me check the Yankees and hold on. Bear with me here. So the Yankees and the Orioles, 70-49. And the Phillies, the Guardians, and the Dodgers all 69-49. So a cluster at the top of the league. No one's really separating themselves from the bunch, which is interesting. There usually is somebody that does. So just an interesting situation thought I had to bring up there. So the Dodgers, 69-49, only a 3.5 game lead over the division. Both the Padres and the Diamondbacks the Padres and the Diamondbacks, partially the reason why I'm wearing this jersey. I bet you could never guess who's on the back. I'll give you a second. Wrong. Gerard Dyson. Not sure where or how I got this. It's actually my brother's jersey, but a Gerard Dyson Snakes jersey. You kidding me? Beauty. But Padres and the Diamondbacks have been the two hottest teams in baseball. The Diamondbacks probably the hottest team. They're gaining on this Dodgers team. They had their first losing month in a 5-year span. So, I mean, man, 3.5 game lead for the Dodgers over those two teams is crazy. So much time left also. 40 games left in the season. Freddie Freeman finally returned back to the Dodgers this weekend. It was good to see him back after dealing with a scary family issue. His youngest son, Max, had a rare condition where he was actually partially paralyzed for about a week, I think it was. But thank God, and hopefully he'll be able to recover. Already on the right track, was discharged from the hospital the other day. So thoughts and prayers go out to the Freddie Freeman and the Freeman family. But glad to see him back on the field. And what did he do in his second game? Ripped a double. And he just became the 7th player in the history of baseball to have 300 home runs and 500 doubles before the age of 35. Lou Gehrig did it. Stan Musial did it. Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera, Robinson Cano, and now Freddie Freeman. The only active major leaguer to have 500 doubles and just the 7th player ever with 300 homers and 500 doubles before the age 35. The 6th player. And Gavin Lux joins Shohei Ohtani as the only two pitchers with multiple RBIs in the same game against Paul Skeens. Shohei Ohtani also reached 35 homers and 30 steals in 113 games this season. That's the fewest games it took to reach those numbers in the history of baseball. And of course, it's Shohei. And the D-backs, talked about them, hottest team in baseball for the last month, really. 66-53. They hold the top NL wildcard spot after a lot of shifting in the past 2 weeks. They have the same record as the Padres. Ketel Marte has 8 home runs in the 9th inning this season. That's the most in baseball. And now he's one of 2 players in MLB history to have 8+ home runs in both the 1st and the 9th. And Marte has 10 first-inning home runs and 8 9th-inning home runs. It's insane. Only other person to do that, A-Rod back in 2007. Josh Bell became the first Diamondbacks player in franchise history with 2 multi-home run games within their first 6 with the club. His first game with the club, 2 home run game, hit one from the left side, one from the right side. And his right side home run was the fastest pitch ever hit from a home run in MLB history. And then his 6th game, 2 homers again. So Josh Bell, like I mentioned, swim move like he's Katie Ledecky earlier in the game of the week, has been so good for this Diamondbacks team, a steal for cash considerations. Jake McCarthy had his first career multi-home run game, and Corbin Carroll has 6 home runs since after the All-Star break, after only having 5 before it. And talked about him before, Adrian Del Castillo became the first player in Diamondbacks history whose first home run was a walk-off, and it came in his 2nd career game. And since July 1st, they've scored an MLB best 230 runs, and they're 25-10 in that span. So this D-backs team, you do not want to face them. They just took a series in an NLCS rematch against the Phillies. The Padres also at 66-53 hold that 2nd wildcard spot. So I'm guessing there's some sort of tiebreaker I don't know about. I guess it's head-to-head between the Padres and the D-backs because I'll never understand this. I'm going to be honest. It doesn't make sense to me. Now that there's like an expanded schedule, everyone plays everyone, there's no game 163, which I think is stupid. Like, there's still a chance for people to be tied at the end of the year. I don't want them to just go based off of head-to-head, all that. Play one game and win it. Like, what are we doing? I don't understand. But same record as the D-backs they have. And Jackson Merrill just had one of the craziest weeks I've really ever seen. He just had a game-tying or go-ahead homer in the 9th 4 times this season. That's the most in a season at the age of 21 or younger in the expansion era. That's since 1961. It's the most in baseball this year. And Merrill tied Mel Ott back in 1929 for the 2nd most game-tying or go-ahead home runs, 5, in the 8th inning or later in a season at age 21 or younger since the year 1900. And Jackson Merrill. So here's Jackson Merrill's week. Here's his week. He had 2 homers on Wednesday against the Pirates. On July 30th, he had a game-tying home run in the 9th inning against the Dodgers. And then he had that 2-homer game against the Pirates, one of those being in the 9th. August 9th, game-tying home run in the 9th versus the Marlins. Became the first player in MLB history to have 3 game-tying home runs in the 9th inning in a span of 11 days or less. Ridiculous. And then guess what? August 10th, game-tying 2-run home run against the Mets in the 8th. Against the Marlins, excuse me. Ridiculous. This guy won't stop, and he's only 21 years old. Unbelievable. This guy is so good. I love watching him play. Especially because of his athleticism, the way he plays center field. He's not a center fielder. He is a shortstop. Everyone on this Padres team was a shortstop coming up to the major leagues, and they moved positions. Jackson Merrill was a shortstop coming into spring training for his rookie year, moved to center field for the first time in his life, and it's been unbelievable. The San Francisco Giants finally up above 500 at 61-59, a game and a half back to that third NL wildcard spot. Tyler Fitzgerald just had a wild 2-week span. First Giant hit 11 home runs in a 17-game span since Barry Bonds in 2003. And here's a list of Giants rookies with 11 or more home runs in their first 50 games of a season since 1901. Willie Mays had 11 in 1951. Darrell Spencer had 13 in 1953. Orlando Cepeda had 13 in 1958. Willie McCovey had 13 in 1959. Dave Kingman, 14 in 1972. And Tyler Fitzgerald's 11 in 2024. Fitzgerald is the 10th rookie since 1900 with a 11 home run in 17-game span. And Heliot Ramos, his 17 home runs are the most by a guy. His 17 home runs are the most by a Giants player under the age of 25 in their first 76 games of the season since Will Clark back in 1988. Logan Webb has thrown 7 innings or more in 13 games this season. That's the most in the majors, and they're above 500 for the first time since May 30th. And to round things out, the Colorado Rockies, 31 games under 500 with a 44-75 record. Just had a wild game against the Braves on Sunday. 7 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning to get a 9-8 win. Jake Cave, 5 home runs, he's got 6 on the season now. He hit one yesterday. Jake Cave has 6 home runs on the season. 4 of them have either tied the game or go-ahead home runs. So 4 of his 6, 66% of his home runs, have either tied or put the game ahead for the Rockies. He's just a clutch home run hitter, I guess. And Bretton Doyle became the 6th 20-homer, 20 stolen base player this season and the 20th Rocky of all time to do it. And I just said they got their their second win in franchise history when trailing by 6 or more runs in the 8th inning or later. They're 2-725 all time. So that's going to do it for us here on the Bobby Valentine Sports Show. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Lots of different things going on. These races are getting extremely tight. All division races and the wildcard races are heating up. Going to be crazy the last month and a half of the season. So make sure you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok to get all the updates. And any questions about the Bobby Valentine Sports Academy, hit up bvacademy.com. And we'll see you next time. Peace out.